Welcome, everyone. Welcome.
Yay!
Hey, welcome everyone.
Some awesome group of people coming in. Yeah, if everyone could just type in the chat where they're coming from.
New Hampshire, we have Montana, we have Los Angeles, Detroit, Michigan, Long Island, Santa Cruz, San Francisco, Virginia, Connecticut, Washington State, Amsterdam, Oakland, California, New Jersey, Philly, Pennsylvania, San Diego, New Zealand, Canada, Orcas Island, Washington. Welcome. What's KC?
Kansas City. I got that one.
City. Oh, okay. Yeah, you got your homie in the house.
Yeah.
Connecticut, Romania, Kentucky.
Thank you.
Welcome, you guys.
So welcome to SuperWellness. This course, the intention behind this 7-week journey that we're about to go on right now is to distill all of the knowledge. Some of you might not have come in through the end of COVID, but really to distill everything that we covered, all the things that we unlearned, and then many of the things that we began to learn towards the last half with A New Health Story Part 1 and 2, down to practical solutions for your life. So Dr. Edith mainly, but I'd say myself too over the last 7 years. She definitely has a lot more years on me with respect to being in the holistic health space. We've both come to the position that health is so much more simple than even much of the holistic health community has been led to believe. And that's what we're looking to do with SuperWellness, is to give you some very practical tools and solutions and really ways of being to help you step into super wellness. Yeah, without further ado, Dr. E, take it away.
All right. Welcome. Thank you. So in the old paradigm, they would say symptoms are bad and they need to be suppressed and controlled. In the new paradigm, we say symptoms are actually our teachers. They're wise, intelligent teachers, and they're actually often the healing response of the body bouncing back, already doing something really wise and smart. And we don't even know what's going on, so we just suppress it because it's like inconvenient. Your body's like, come on, man, work with me sometimes, you know? So I think if we become more humble and listen more deeply, we start to learn how to work with these signs and symptoms and support the wisdom and intelligence that is at play, instead of being like, I don't know what you're trying to do, just cut it out. And it's like, then other symptoms pop up and it becomes a whack-a-mole game, right? So anyway, I'm preaching to the choir with a group like this. Another big thing, especially brought to the forefront, this idea of one-size-fits-all solutions versus honoring what is unique to each individual, being humble to discover the unique custom solution that works best for each individual being. Another huge thing, giving our power away to the so-called external experts, like, oh, the system's going to take care of me. It's like, well, we got a rude awakening with that these last few years. So now that's the blessing. It got so many of us realizing, oh, okay, health is actually my own personal responsibility. I'm in charge of my own health. And that doesn't mean I don't ask for help. That doesn't mean I don't sometimes consult people that have decades of experience at a certain topic and ask for their assistance and support. But at the end of the day, I'm the boss of my life. I am in command of this life. And this health is something that I want to take beautiful care of, is my responsibility. The old paradigm said, this is one of the big myths, even in the holistic circles, that if you get sick, it's like, uh-oh, the best healthcare is going to be break of the bank, so expensive and so complicated. Well, I hope that you'll agree at the end of these 6 weeks that it's not that some of the expensive, complicated things don't also work. It's just that actually really potent and powerful healing strategies are available, and they're free, they're simple, they're easily accessible. But why don't we focus on it? Just like we blame Big Pharma for all the pharmaceutical medication advertisements, to a smaller degree, even in holistic natural health circles, if there's no market to sell you something, your perspective is skewed towards what people keep trying to sell you. Everyone's trying to sell you shit. And so we have to recognize that they might sell you vitamin D, but they can't sell you just go outside, get some sunshine and fresh air. You know, they can't sell you just take a deep breath, man. Like, take a pause and take 3 deep breaths. It's hard to sell that to you, you know, but I think there's a movement that's happening. My good friend Wim Hof, who did the foreword of the SuperWellness book, he's gotten so popular. And then the James Nestor book about Breathe got so popular because people realized, like, enough of this BS. I want to take back command of my health again. And would tell me what are the most potent and powerful things. It turns out they're also totally free. What else? The old paradigm told us that, well, your body is kind of like making mistakes and it's broken and you can't fix it unless you have drugs and surgeries and injections and interventions. And the new paradigm is like, actually, I believe that my body is wise and intelligent. I believe that it's designed to heal naturally, but sometimes it can get stuck in certain phases of the healing cycle. Let me humble myself and work with other holistic practitioners that help me to actually heal and regenerate more optimally, right? So it's a very different worldview. What else? We used to think, I mean, Bruce Lipton has been doing amazing work for decades now. It's like, when is the world gonna, on the whole, understand that genes do not determine everything, you know? The old paradigm said there's no cure for it, there's nothing you can do about it. The new paradigm, we know that there's so many different alternatives available. We don't limit ourselves to just drugs, injections, and surgeries, though sometimes we're very blessed and grateful in severe situations of access to that. So we're not poo-pooing on anything in Western medicine, but just putting it back into its proper context again. You know, this is a huge one. The old paradigm said that the mind, body, emotion, soul are all separated. And this soul is not even like anything spiritual that's not medicine. You know, luckily things are changing now. There's all these wonderful, what they call starseed light workers who are like camouflaging themselves as conventional doctors doing research on, quote, mind body medicine. But they're like reawakening the soulfulness again in the healing profession. So if there's any of you that are in that boat, I'm so grateful that you're here. Thank you for choosing to take on this role in this lifetime. It is so much needed. I do know for a fact there's a bunch of MDs and RNs that have signed up here. So thank you. Kisses to everyone. The new paradigm of health: body, mind, emotion, soul, psycho-spiritual, intergenerational health and well-being. This idea that our health can only thrive optimally in a holistic and well-rounded kind of environment. Right? There's the inner dimension and there's the outer dimension. And there's also the intergenerational dimension too, is a very vast conversation. The old paradigm of health, looking at the body as robotic machine parts. This is part of this physical, materialist, mechanistic way of looking at your body. The new paradigm of health, we know that there's the physical substance, but that on a deeper level, the body is a sacred temple of our consciousness. We explore things like light, energy, plasma, water, information, frequencies. There's a great humbleness looking at the deep mystery of life and all these dimensions. So the old paradigm, of course, all the solutions are based on just 3D physical reality, right? But the new paradigm, we look at consciousness, we look at light, energy, frequency, sounds, as well as the 3D stuff. We don't limit ourselves. We honor the 3D part, but we open our perspective to take in all these other wonderful possible ways to level up our health and well-being. And the final one that I've already mentioned, this really is an important point. The old paradigm of health is built upon an understanding of our physiology based on a bunch of dead cadavers and dead cells in petri dishes, separated from the life, the experience of life. I'm not saying they're all corrupt liars or something. They're telling the truth very often. But the fundamental way in which we do break up the body in robotic parts, like dead parts separated from the whole, is only going to give you so much insight into how it actually works in the alive system. You know, so the new paradigm of health, we observe, like you are a researcher. I often say, you know, your doctor, like your doctor's appointment, Western conventional doctors, you know, not the functional medicine doctors that spend like 3 hours with you, but like the conventional ones, you meet them like once or twice a year for what, 10 minutes? Just take some Tylenol and call me in the morning. I mean, it's like, who knows you better? How long is your appointment with yourself? Your appointment with the doctor is like once or twice a year, 5 or 10 minutes each. Your appointment with yourself is 24/7, 365. Who's the expert here? So this is why this whole week is about, maybe in this crowd less so than other people, but there are residues of that where we're still giving our power away to the external experts because they're dressed in the white coat, they've got the stethoscope, they've got pieces of paper on the wall. But you know so much more about yourself than anybody else out there ever could. And then some of us are really into spending time in nature, forest bathing and gardening and tree hugging and spending time, at the beach, barefoot on bare earth. There is an inherent knowingness that is in your cells because you understand the patterns of nature. Honor that. There's no piece of paper on the wall that is more potent and powerful than that credential that you already have. Are you guys you guys are all muted? Are you going, yeah, hallelujah, raise the roof? So, in honor of the great Alex Zek, I put a reference to your logo here. There's a radical change in consciousness that is happening right now. And so the conversation about health can't be separated from the conversation about consciousness. And many of you guys know I come from a background as a consciousness and human potential coach, as well as being a holistic doctor. And so I'm just observing how actually the divisiveness we see out there is because we're in a messy transition. Our friend Charles Eisenstein calls it the story between stories, the old story of separation into the new story of interbeing. When you're in that bridge, transitioning between stories, sometimes you're in the new story, sometimes you're in the old story. You feel kind of like schizoid or something, or is this schizophrenic? I get those confused. So you go yo-yo back and forth, but just to articulate it, I found it really helpful to just write it out like this. Oh, there I am in the old story of divisiveness, of war, of conflict, of competition, of pushiness, of coercion, of forcefulness. That's me running my old patterns. I see it. Okay, gentle with myself, doing my best, take a deep breath, and see if I can click back into interbeing, unity, peace, harmony, collaboration, win-win, be more flowing and honoring and supportive and allowing. Appreciating the natural diversity instead of pushing people into one-size-fit-all anything. Health is just one of many things that the old story tried to squeeze us into a one-size-fit-all paradigm. And then the stressful artificial scarcity that is so unsustainable. It just, we're burnt out from it, I think. Well, we've outgrown it, and the new one is about abundance and regeneration and a generous energy that is nurturing, life-giving, and life-enhancing. The old paradigm, I know there's many of us that lose sleep at night looking at how pushy and coercive things have gotten in the last few years. But actually, that is a symptom that they're getting increasingly more desperate. The more pushy things get, it's a sign actually of weakness and desperation. Because, you've probably experienced this. When you are tired and frazzled, you're more pushy. When you're well-resourced, confident, strong, you don't need to push people around. You're just confident. You're actually naturally laid back, right? So just notice this about ourselves. As a human being, in this new consciousness, we experience life from a holistic and nuanced and multidimensional worldview. Instead of looking at just the 3D physical reality from a black and white lens, all rigid and everything, we are more nuanced and holistic. We're able to hold multiple perspectives and have nuanced conversation, and we understand that sometimes life works in a paradoxical way. Such as if you're weak, you're more pushy. If you're strong, you're more laid back. That's one of many interesting paradoxes. The old human thought that the consciousness is just some brain chemistry. The new human understands that consciousness is primary and the physical reality is influenced by our consciousness. And this has direct effect on how we approach our health. And we also honor all the intelligences, not just the IQ, what they call, quote, science, just like the analytical data, devoid of heart, devoid of spirit. The new human's like, oh, all of those are intelligences. I can use my intellect. I have a good IQ, but I also use my intelligence in terms of left brain, right brain, head, heart, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual intelligence, nature intelligence, street smart, kindness, compassion, courage, truth, integrity, peace, joy, love. Those are all different dimensions of intelligence that is part of our human experience, that we value these things. And then we've already talked about the new paradigm of health, that the new human has a very different orientation to health. The new human understands that nature is our teacher, and that we are nature and nature is us, and that life is here for living. Let's live. The old paradigm would do all kinds of things out of fear, fear of symptoms and fear of pain and suffering, and all this fear about driving its behaviors and actions. So yeah, is this helping to get the gears going for you guys about this transition? Are you guys resonating that we're all kind of like in this in-between bridge state, and you find yourself, just be gentle, you teeter-totter, sometimes you go back to the old story, you're like, okay, take a deep breath, let's realign, So no judgment on any of us, just we're all on the same journey. To help on this journey as we evolve and expand our consciousness, I find that the Dr. David Hawkins map of consciousness very, very helpful and very, very useful for these times. Have you guys read David Hawkins's books? Power versus Force, Letting Go is a more recent one that's really popular. Map of Consciousness Explained. He was a titan in researching the science of human consciousness, and he calibrated this whole scale out of 1,000 to indicate that depending on the level of consciousness that you enter a situation with, you will have a completely different reality and a completely different set of results in your life. You can see that if someone comes to a situation with guilt, shame, or apathy, they'll get a certain kind of energy and a certain kind of results. If someone comes to a situation with courage, very, very different results, right? Someone comes with joy, with peace, with love, totally different reality. Well, he actually mathematically calibrated it. And so the scale of 1,000 is actually what's called a logarithmic scale. Are you guys good at math? Yes? So 20 actually means 10 to the 20th power. 50 actually means 10 to the 50th power. 200 is 10 to the 200th power. But if he wrote it all out, it'd be way too many zeros and it would fall off the page. So he translated it to this logarithmic scale, meaning this courage is 10 to the 200th. Love is 10 to the 500th power. So these are like orders of magnitudes increase as you go up the scale. Does that kind of make sense? Okay, so that's enough math probably. The point is that he discovered that there's a sweet spot that clicks in at the 200 level. Below 200, your life will always have to have a stressful, strenuous, pushy energy. You always have to keep struggling because you're coming from a very weak consciousness. So you do have to push to get anything done. It's like just molasses. You got to push through all this dense energy to get things done. Once you hit courage, now you're like, oh, I don't want to play the blame game anymore. I don't want to act like a victim. I want to be self-inspired and self-directed and self-empowered. Let me look into tools for my self-empowerment. And then life starts supporting you. Go, go, go. Yes, yes, yes. So you click in what's called power, where life starts supporting you and you don't have to be so forceful and pushy in things anymore. As you keep evolving upwards to about 500, the space of love and compassion, another big shift happens where your life is more dominated by flow and synchronicity and magic and beauty and a richness of life experience that the lower levels couldn't perceive. So there's this idea that you can only perceive the levels of consciousness below yours, but you can't truly understand the levels of consciousness that are above yours. The good news is it's not totally static. For example, some of us might have a courageous approach to our health. We might have a joyful approach to our relationships, and we might have a fearful approach to our money. So you do have the reference point of what the joy or the love feels like in some area of your life, then you can ask yourself, how can I bring that quality into my orientation of health or money or relationships or the other facets, and kind of help yourself. These facets of you can coach the other facets of you, right? And level up. So my question is, at this moment, if you were honest with yourself, what is your approach to your health and well-being? Maybe it fluctuates from day to day. How often do you come from a fearful space? How often do you come from an angry space? Like if you have wake up with a sore throat, you're like, damn it, body, I don't have time for this BS. You ever do that? Sometimes I have. Or, I don't care, what's the point? You ever say that to yourself? Or how often do you say, I have this symptom right now. Body, talk to me. Do we need to take the day off? Do we need to go get some broth? Maybe I should cancel that appointment. It's not that important anyway. I need to take a rest and just have some quiet time right now. You know, you'll get completely different results. How different? Dr. David Hawkins calibrated it. One person who comes from a 300 consciousness, which is like neutrality and willingness, optimism and trust, this area, is as powerful as 90,000 people who are coming from a 200 consciousness. 90,000. It's no joke. That's why you change your consciousness in a situation, you'll have a completely different set of results. One person who comes from a 400 consciousness is 400,000 times as powerful as a sub 200 consciousness. One person who comes from a 500 consciousness of love and compassion is as powerful as 750,000 people, sub 200. This is a game changer. If you, instead of focusing on, should I be vegan? Should I be paleo? Should I do this biohack or that biohack? Ask yourself, what is the consciousness that I'm bringing into this dynamic or this situation, into this current health challenge that I'm facing? And how can I be gentle and kind with myself, get still, and look at shifting the consciousness that I'm bringing to this current challenge that I'm facing in my life? I'm going to keep bringing this back because as we nerd out on the science of water, people are going to be like, well, which water should I drink and which gadget? It's like, well, maybe it matters and maybe it doesn't matter too much. Just always keep that in the back of your mind, right? So there's this famous saying by Albert Einstein. We think that it came from Albert Einstein. Unclear if he actually said it, but it's such a great quote. No problems can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. So if you're bumping head in the wall, like, oh my God, this is such a struggle, ding, 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 that's a sign that it's time to take a step back and see if you can shift to a higher perspective, change your perspective, your consciousness that you're bringing into this situation, which changes the entire energy. Completely different world that you click in. This reminds me of Bill Mollison. They call him the father or grandfather of permaculture. He says, though the problems of the world are increasingly complex, the solution remain embarrassingly simple. SuperWellness is embarrassingly simple, actually. But it takes us 6 or 7 weeks to deprogram all the unnecessary complexities. I haven't found a way to make it shorter than 6 weeks. Sorry. I've been working on this for like 20 years. It seems to take about 6 weeks. So thank you for taking this journey together with me to recalibrate back to the natural simplicity and have a good sense of humor. There's like a cosmic joke here. And Alec and I shared on some podcasts, in 2003, I had this indescribable, spontaneous, mystical experience from doing Qigong. And it was so beautiful. But then it took me 20 years to backfill all the details when I came back to really embody and integrate the experience. And then the cosmic joke is so simple. It's all about actually shedding the unnecessary complexities and the BS and the excessive struggle that we all put ourselves through. So take a moment after this conversation now. Jot down in your journal, what's your definition of health? I'm going to give you a minute or two to jot down in your journal. This is actually our homework or homework. Is there work? Home exploration for this week. To go deep into this question, not just superficially, like really drop into your heart, into your body. What is health? And please make sure to bring your journal back on Saturday, because today I'm yapping a lot, but really I want to hear from you guys. I just wanted to set the backdrop of our exploration. There's a lot that I know we'll all learn from each other, and I'm excited to learn from you. Here are what past SuperWellness students have said. Health is a state of dynamic balance, integration, and wholeness. Health is the optimal functioning of all aspects of my being, body, mind, emotions, and soul. Health is my adaptability and resilience to the ups and downs of life. Health is the feeling and experience of connection and oneness. Health is living a life of joy and fulfillment and having an overall sense of well-being. Health is my ability to be fully present, to enjoy life, to live confidently without being distracted by physical limitations or distracted by fears of future illness or injury. This one's my favorite. Health is simply the freedom to live my life to the fullest. So let me ask you this. How does a healthy person meet the challenges of different symptoms, illness, disease, injury? Alec, do you want to unmute and share? How does a healthy person meet the challenges of health when they come up?
I would say my answer to that is a healthy person knows that the mind creates the body and that it starts with the mind first. So, understanding that I found is paramount, especially as I just did a 15-day water fast. So I think approaching and understanding that the mindset needs to come first, and that many physical symptoms that we experience and chronic symptoms that we experience are a result of something to do with the mind. So I would say that's the first thing. And bringing play and joy and freedom back into it, like taking the heaviness off of it.
It's easy, huh? To have a good sense of humor when you're in a lot of pain.
I forget the exact experiment, but I think it was something that Joe Dispenza has mentioned. And it's like he had a bunch of elderly people in a nursing home, I believe, just pretend to be their younger selves and be more joyful and playful. And then after some time, they had like measurable and very apparent reduction in chronic symptoms and looked much younger. So it's taking the heaviness off of it. So that's what I got.
Yeah, Norman Cousins, who wrote that famous book, Anatomy of an Illness, he had some mysterious, incurable thing or something, so they say, and they're like, there's nothing we can do about it. So he went home and watched lots of funny movies and cured himself from laughing.
Yeah.
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 Here's what past students have said, and this is another thing that I hope you guys will spend some time as your home exploration so that we can discuss further on Saturday. People have said a healthy person tends to generally bounce back from illness and injury faster and be confident in his or her capacity to recover from life stressors. A healthy person tends to be open and curious so that he or she can learn from each experience. A healthy person tends to be self-aware and skilled at listening to his or her body. A healthy person tends to honor the body's process of healing and repair and give it the necessary support like rest, nutrition, hydration, different therapies so that it can heal fully or faster. A healthy person tends to have access to a variety of healing tools and resources to support his health. Healthy person tends to embrace life's experiences as opportunities to learn and grow. A healthy person, this is a big one in our communities of lone wolves, pioneer types, is tends to not be afraid to ask for help while also being self-directed and self-empowered. A lot of us are like, it's all my mind. I'm going to just tough it out and do my mind mastery work. It's like, well, you just want a hug? Call your friend. Hey, can you come over and give me a hug and feed me some chicken soup or something, Yeah, there's a softening into that also. So let's see. I think that was page 66 of SuperWellness. Page 67 of SuperWellness looks at how do you create health? So I come from a Chinese medicine background. And this whole thing of yin and yang is like Chinese medicine 101, chapter 1, basically, like yin and yang theory. It's actually nothing very esoteric. Yin yang balance. If there's too much yang or activity and not enough yin or rest and recovery, we get overworked, sick, and, burnt out and injured. If there's too much yin, like sitting as a couch potato, eating French fries and chips all day long, not enough yang, we get sluggish and sick. So how do you harmonize and balance these things? And where does injury happen? So Alex, athlete, how does an athlete figure out the perfect balance of stress and recovery cycle so that you can get fitter and fitter?
Being really, really, really tapped in with your body. Being really, really, really tapped in with your body. It's going to be different from person to person. Yeah. You just have to, for lack of a better term, go with what your intuition is telling you, in my experience. Especially like in Western cultures, I don't even know if it's just Western cultures, but Western culture athletics, speaking to my own experience, there's a tendency to go, 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 and not focus on recovery, which leads to injury, right? And I think, just being really, really tuned into your intuition, what it's guiding you to do.
So I came from a background as an endurance athlete. So let's take an example of training for a marathon. You don't just run 26.2 miles like suddenly. I mean, maybe you could, but it wouldn't be very fun. So if you want optimal performance, you do what they call periodization cycles. So you start with running like 3 or 4 miles, and you back off, and then you run 5 or 6 miles, and then you do some recovery. And then 6 or 7 miles, you iterate like this and gradually stress recovery. So when do you get stronger? This is the same, those of you that are gym rats. When are you strongest? At the end of a max out third set of pumping your muscles in the gym? Is that when you're strongest? That's just the stimulus. Then you go home. Drink lots of water, sleep well, good nutrition, good lifestyle, and then your body will build back up stronger in response to that stimulus. We forget that in this culture for some strange reason. That's how you get stronger, that yin part of the cycle. The yang activity creates the stimulus, information into your system. Then the yin part is what then says, oh, okay, thank you for that. Let me do my best to adapt to this stimulus. Without that, you just get injured. So no stress, no growth. No recovery, also no growth. So what is this thing they call trauma? I don't claim to be a trauma expert, but I've worked with people for 20 years now, thousands of people with quite complicated health histories. What if trauma is the stress load was too much and not met with the right recovery and nourishing support system to be able to integrate that stimulus and turn it into strength and fitness and wisdom? This is physical, mental, emotional, spiritual levels. It's the same story. No stress, no growth, no recovery, no growth. But it's the nuance of the balance between those doses. Locking into that sweet spot for yourself and getting the right support system. If there's a big stress, there needs to be a big recovery to match that stress. And the gift when I work with athletes, like sometimes they have a really detrimental, serious injury and they really do some soul searching afterwards. They're like, oh man, I was not listening to my body. I shouldn't have done that. I trained all year long for this championship and now I can't even play. I'm devastated. But then years down the road, they're so mindful and so tuned into their bodies and so aware about working on their technique and their biomechanics and their mindfulness and their yoga and their breath work and all the other holistic things to support their optimal dialed in performance because of that one setback. So that they don't need to learn that lesson anymore because they learned the lesson. Which is why one of my favorite Eckhart Tolle quote is suffering really necessary? Yes and no. If you had not suffered as you have, there would be no depth to you as a human being, no humility, no compassion. You would not be here reading this now. Suffering cracks open the shell of the ego, and then comes a point when it has served its purpose. Suffering is necessary until you realize it is unnecessary. In the interest of time, I'm going to go through these slides a little bit quick and give it to you as your homework. What are things that are not diet, not exercise, that nourishes your physical body? Write down at least 3 things. 3 things that nourishes your physical body. Not diet or exercise, though. I hope you agree that we don't just have a physical body, we have emotions. What nurtures your emotions? And your mind. What supports and nourishes your mind? I know a lot of people use exercise to clear the mind, but what about other things? Let's create some redundancies here. These are the essential nutrients. It's a food that we're hungry for. What if I asked you what nourishes your soul? Does that bring up something different from mind or emotions? So these may or may not be yours, but this is my list. And these hits all the spots: body, mind, emotion, soul, everything. This is actually very profound, and I didn't even realize it when I wrote the Super Wellness book. When you do something that takes beautiful care of all the levels, it actually creates the integration effect. Because we've fragmented ourselves to think this is the mind, this is the emotions, this is the body, this is the soul. When you take a deep breath and mind, body, emotion, soul, all the levels of your being come back into coherence. This is a very powerful state. When you go into nature and gaze at a sunrise or sunset barefoot on bare earth, it clicks all the levels of your being back into a coherent state. It doesn't have to be anything complicated. So I want to invite you as home exploration. No work. My friend said, I like, the workouts, I really want the out and not the work part. So Super Wellness is kind of like that. You get the good, best bang for the buck juice, and there's not a whole lot of hard work involved. It's about clicking ourselves back into alignment. 1, 2, or 3 things that you feel like you can put into play that clicks all the levels of your being back into coherence and alignment. That is super simple. It's so freaking simple that you've overlooked it for far too long because it's free. Because we think that we should pay lots of money for something complicated and expensive, and then we'll get results. It's time to return our values to what's truly valuable, not let the so-called GDP machine distort our innate value anymore. So what's truly valuable takes beautiful care of your body, mind, emotions, and soul. 1, 2, maximum 3 things that you can play with this week. Like, take a few minutes to take deep breaths. Go into nature, barefoot on bare earth. Play some joyful healing music every single day. Maybe for some people, a gratitude practice. because that's been found to lower blood pressure and help with sleep and help your quote immune system and all these things like the research studies show. It's like kind of silly that we need all these complicated research studies to tell us what we already know. So choose 1, 2, or 3 of your favorite nourishing self-care practices. Don't let the simplicity fool you. These are the essential nutrients that our systems may be really hungry for. And if you've been enjoying this conversation, I want to invite you to tell your friends and family, because we're just getting started here. So it's not going to be too late. If they want to join in on the bandwagon, they can listen to this replay, and then we can have a really rich and powerful conversation going much deeper on Saturday with all your journal prompts that you shared today, and really opening the line for us to ping pong and bounce ideas for each other. We're going to go deeper into more advanced conversations about why this whole thing of discipline and willpower, why people fall off the bandwagon and so on. So there's a lot of deep stuff for us to explore together on Saturday. In closing, I want to reiterate this idea that I think we all already have all the information. The powerful work right now is actually us coming together, supporting and nurturing each other in clicking ourselves back into our optimal state of well-being on an individual level and also as a community level. And then this quickly ripples into essentially birthing a more beautiful human civilization. So there's a famous Hopi quote that you've probably heard before that starts with something like, "You've been telling people that it's the 11th hour, and now you must tell people that this is the hour. And there are things to be considered." And it goes into looking at your water, your food, your community, and so on. But it ends with this very powerful part that says, "The time of the lone wolf is over. Gather yourself. Banish the word struggle from your attitude and your vocabulary. All that we do now must be done in a sacred manner and in celebration." So this is the vibe and the energy that I'm inviting all of us into for the next 6 or 7 weeks, because the world is going through messy changes right now. But do you, on an individual level, have to get hooked into all that drama and messiness? Does that even help anybody? Let's take beautiful care of ourselves. Let's really train ourselves like black belts, like how to Aikido with all the changes out there by taking beautiful care of our own nervous system, our energy systems, master our energy, stay centered, powerful, integrated, and strong. And then we will have the presence and clarity of mind and the energy in our physiology to meet the challenges out there properly. So that's what this whole 6 or 7 weeks is really about. I'm so grateful that we get to share this together.